workforces, bringing to a point of poverty, lack of insufficient rural healthcare sectors, connectivity and mode of communication being very poor. In today's webinar, as impact of COVID-19 pandemic on livelihood of rural India. Now I would like to invite Dr. Shruti Kanga, coordinator of Center for Climate Change and Water Research, for a welcome address. Dr. Shruti Kanga, ma'am, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, loud and clear.
Okay, okay. Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Shruti Kaga. I am currently an associate professor and coordinating the Center for Climate Change and Water Research from Suresh Gyamvihar University. I welcome you all in the today's webinar. So, as Dr. Priyanka has already briefed you about the, webinar. Now, let me briefly introduce our panelists. So, we have with us Professor Jyoti Satyapan. He is currently serving as a professor in NIRD. He is a specialist in sustainable development, natural resource economics, biodiversity. He did his PhD from University of Mysore. In addition to this, he has published many international and national publications. He also works in the areas like sustainable development and specialized in marine fisheries with the focus of interface between biodiversity conservation and human well-being. He was nominated by Government of India as a lead author of IPBES Global Assessment, Asia Pacific Assessment, and a review editor for scenarios and models of biodiversity and ecosystem service assessment of the IPBES. He was also a member of subcommittee of Andhra Pradesh Agriculture Commission chaired by Professor R. Radhakrishnan in 2016. His major research project is Biodiversity and Ecosystem Service Scenario Network, supported by Belmont Forum through the Ministry of Earth Science and Government of India. He has many PhD scholars with him, and he has published various
Ma'am, the
Jyoti
voice is
Satyapan. Now we have with us Professor Vijay Kumar. He is also. Hello. Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Now.
Continue.
yes, now clear. Continue,
Okay.
ma'am.
So we have the Dr. Vijay Kumar with us. He is a great academician and researcher, presently working as associate professor at Center for Human Resource Development, NIRDPR, Guwahati. He is having more than 26 of experience in teaching, training, and research in the community area, psychology, community resource mapping, and human resource development. He is a member of around 25 different international, national professional bodies and societies. Dr. Vijay is having around 40 research papers and books in his publication. He has also completed around 74 projects in NIRD and consultancy as well. He is also a recipient of many awards and honors, which includes Best Teacher Award, 5th September 1999, and Best Training Program Award. Then we have to suppose Dr. SBL Srivastava, but unfortunately he has some urgent work, so he is not with us. But I would like to give a brief about him also. He is a renowned oncologist, presently working as Dean cum Professor and HOD of Gynec Oncology Cancer Hospital and Research Institute, Gwalior. He has 28 years of experience in Army Medical Corps as a cancer specialist surgeon. Sir, we miss your presence. So to replace him, we have with us Dr. Varun Narayan Mishra. Dr. Varun Narayan Mishra is currently working as an assistant professor in Center for Climate Change and Water Research in Suresh Gyan Vihar University. Dr. Varun did his PhD from IIT BHU in the field of physics. He received MTech degree in remote sensing and GIS from Birla Institute of Technology, and he is currently with us. He has many research papers of international and national and then he has also worked as with JNU in a project in SAR in image processing. That's all about the our panelists of today. So I welcome you all, and now I would like to invite Professor Jyotis for his talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me at the outset thank the university, Gyan Vihar University, and particularly the Center for Climate Change and Water Research at the university. And also my special thanks to Shruti Ganga, Dr. Shruti Ganga, and Dr. Suraj. And my colleagues are there. So Dr. Vijay Kumar is there. And also the scholar who is absent, Srivastava. In fact, I agreed to speak on Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This particular program under the Ministry of Rural Development recently got attention across the country because this is the best program to help the poor people and to augment the livelihood of the poor. So that was the reason. It's from the government side and also from the opposition side. Both parties were equally talking about Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. We all know that this is a statutory program. I just want to stress that point. It's a statutory program. It's not like any other programs, because there is an act which is passed in 2005, and this program started implementing from 2006 onwards. We have a history already with us, how to do livelihood augmentation under this program. And there are many questions that come in my mind when I start talking about the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee, particularly in the context of COVID-19. COVID-19, it's the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. They are promoting. There's a lockdown is there, and also social distancing. We don't want to see that the pandemic, it's spread across the country. So the basic principle is to keep distance from each other. That is the basic principle. It's working. And you see that Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee employment, it's a public work program. So people will gather definitely. This is a problem. And that is the one way you have to augment the livelihood of the poor in India. That's the government can supply money through that particular scheme. So my basic question here is, how do you implement this program successfully? So there are many questions. I would like to raise these questions in the beginning itself, so you can remember these questions. One is, how many households and people are depending on MGNREGA for their livelihood? Remember, the Act says that it is for unskilled manual labor. It is targeting unskilled. It's not a targeted program, but it is meant for unskilled manual labor. It's not talking about everybody. So what proportion of income they earn, and from this public work program, what proportion of employment it generate across India, and also how they spend this income across these 12 months, which month it gives maximum income from this NREGA program, and also what kind of works can be promoted at different category of works. Remember this NREGA, we have 260 approved works. We cannot take any other work other than these 260 approved works. Out of this, nearly 60% of the works are related to natural resource management, and the remaining related to rural infrastructure and providing various facilities to augment livelihood. And any specific concern to a particular age group of people when we implemented this program in rural areas, because NREGA attracts all age groups. NREGA will not keep away anybody who is having a debilitating health problem, comorbidity, which is very risky, in these days. And also the age, any age group can come and work under NREGA. We have statistics with us. People working above 80, 90 are in NREGA. So what are the works and tasks that need to be avoided during this period? Can we think of such kind of thing? Any task or work under NREGA should be kept aside. One should not implement. Should we rethink about the timing of work? The timing of work as per this act is 12 hours, flexible, and one has to do 7 hours work with 1 hour break. That is what the act says. It is a flexible time for 12 hours and 1 hour break and 7 hours work. That's what the act says. Do we need an improvement in the worksite facilities? Act talks about certain worksite facilities. Do we need an improvement on that, like first aid box, drinking water, shade, and things like that? Should we add anything more, today, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, because we are going to augment livelihood through NREGA? And another question is how to ensure timely job and timely payment of wages, which is very important, because the moment it gets delayed, the wage payment, people may get discouraged and they may go back. That can happen. So timely payment of wages and timely job, it's important. Then the last one I would like to ask is how to link NREGA with agriculture. It's already linked with agriculture, not with the entire agriculture sector. There's already links with that. So I just wrote so many questions in this context of NREGA. And if you read the preamble of the act, it's said that it's at least 100 days of employment should be provided. It's a state perspective. From the state side, it should be at least 100 days of employment. That means state can increase the number of days of employment. Also, that's what the preamble talks about. And the preamble, it's mentioning about the minimum wages. The minimum wage as per the 1948 Minimum Wage Act. Today, it is decided by the government of India, not states. After 2010, it is decided by the government of India, and the inflationary part of it will be added to it and then passed to the states. So the wage varies across states depending upon the purchasing power of the agricultural laborers based on the agriculture price index. So that's what the basic introduction about this. From the COVID point of view, I would like to say a few words in terms of number. Just think about in terms of number, how many people depending, what is the coverage of this program across India? So around 69% of the rural household today covered under this program. There is 13.75 crore rural household covered under this program. But this 13.75 is not actively involved in NREGA. They all have a job card. They got a job card. They are entitled to get employment under NREGA. Then how many are working? If you see the last 3 years, the active participation is 7 crores plus, that is the active participation. And now the reverse migration also happening. So the potential, all of a sudden you can see that there may be people coming and asking work new. They all entitled 69%, at maximum 69% of the rural household can ask work today. But it was only 36% were asking earlier. We call them as active job card holders. So there's a huge potential to provide employment and also income through this program. And we are thankful to the Central Ministry, additional 40 1,000 crores already allocated. So this year we have more than 1 lakh crore rupees with us to provide employment under this. We can expect more people coming to this program. So that's what that is the scope of this program. Then there must be some short-term recommendations. When the ministry asked us to give some short-term recommendations, we mentioned it must be the MGNREGS labor with agriculture operation. It must be linked to agriculture operation. So how do you link? There were lots of debate in the past on how to link with the agriculture operation. But we recommended that this is the Rabi season and there must be a link with the harvesting. And at least the guidelines says that you can employ NREGA in among in the lands of marginal communities like SC, ST, smallholders and marginal holders. You can link them there for harvesting operations, and then you can pay from. So we recommended to include the harvesting. We should not lose our crop as far as both agriculture and the wage employment is concerned. And another thing is, there was an argument here to augment, to support them 15 days in advance payment, but it has not happened, the 15 days advance payment, but speedy, the money is transferred. Wherever there was a delay, the government of India immediately released the money last month. That was a real help. And there was no such delay happened last month in our understanding. And we had a discussion with the secretary and the joint secretary at MORD. We understood they released the money to the people. There's no more delay and the money is there. So there's no advance payment, but there is no delay. It's under ministry level. Then some other points I wanted to tell you is that how do you plan the whole work, 260 works? There's a muster roll. You may know that what's a muster roll. And you see that 15 to 20 people are in one muster roll. One muster roll is for one project, and it has to be finished within a week time. And in many states, you can see joint operation of muster rolls. So like Telangana, if you go, you can see that 400 to 500 people working in a tank desilting activity. That we may not be able to allow in this particular period. So how do you keep certain works aside at this moment, which we cannot? So one message is one should not join the muster roll and implement the large projects under NREGA. We should go for medium or small scale projects under NREGA where you can keep maximum 10 to 15 people, maximum. There should not be more than that. That was the one advice we given to, and so you have a more number of projects rather than a single project operating in one work site. That was the main advice we given to into the ministry. The second thing is the tasks are different from work. There's a relationship between task and work. Under 260 works, you can see many tasks. For example, a desilting activity is going on, a tank desilting activity is going on, then somebody will be digging, somebody will be taking the soil out, and somebody will be throwing the soil, some maybe 25 meters away. So 3 people jointly operating one task. This is called a task under one work. So joint operations of task you will see under NREGA, that may be. So any work, any approved work, that has a larger number of joint operation of tasks should be avoided. This is the one thinking. It's already we given to the ministry, but you can select the works that has independent task. Let us say that plantation works or some small construction works or something. People operate task independently. So a micro plan, a modification of micro plan, and decisions at state level, it's crucial at this context of COVID-19. So central government may not be able to give such a strategy for each and every panchayats or a block or a district in this country. but the decision has to be taken at a different scale and what strategy they need. That strategy also depending upon what kind of people are coming into their the Narega, like what kind of age groups are coming, what kind of healthy debilitating health, lactating women or pregnant women all coming. And again, another consideration is agroecology of that region. So agroecology varies. It's not like the Cochin, for example, it's a wetland area, but the Himalaya is again different. Bundelkhand is different. So agroecology must be. So all these kind of concerns are there when you plan the micro level labor budgeting process. So one has to rethink the whole labor budgeting process at micro level and design the micro plan in such a way that it will go in align with the COVID-19 standard, social distancing and lockdown measures and all. So this is very important, and state can give direction for that parts. Then there must be some, as a precaution, also we recommended the modification in this muster roll. That's one. Then another thing I wanted to mention that this is just Rabi getting over everywhere, and now Kharif is going, and in between there was a gap. This gap we call it's a lean period. In this lean period, the maximum MGNREGA work demand you see in this particular period. This was the income lost actually in April, May. Many people lost. For example, if you see the Rajasthan case, you take the monthly, this is a peak time and they lose the income, and now monsoon is going to come. It may not be that easy to design MGNREGA work in the field. So that's another concern we have. So maximum support and a new strategy we need how to provide employment. Another point I want to mention is job cards. The job cards, many people, if you look the past data, maybe last 1 decade data, people registered for Narega gone up. Money allocation also gone up. There is no doubt about it. But now after 2030 onwards, you see a dip in providing employee, on the job card. So the gap between the registration for a job card and people getting issuance of job card, it's increasing over a period of time. This has to be solved immediately at a state level. They have to speed up giving the job card. People see without job card, they will not be able to get the job. They need an entitlement. See, speeding up of job card issuance of job card is very important under Narega. That is a very important, and state has to act on it, not from the sender, because sender is not the one issuing the job card. And many people getting job card. For example, in Telangana, you can see 3 kinds of job cards for disabled population, and also there will be a color change for age-old people, able-bodied, and things like that. That kind of approach also help to understand what kind of morbidity or what kind of ability people have, those coming and demanding the public work. So one concern is speedy issuance of job. The another one is, if you look into the demand side, there is something called anticipatory demand under Narega. Anticipatory demand means the demand at the time of labor budgeting. So in the beginning of labor budgeting, they put a number after eliciting the demand on that particular state, and this will be this year's labor going to demand that. That's called anticipatory. Then at the end of the year, there is something called realized. If you see the data, the MIS data from the government of India, the gap between anticipatory demand and the realized demand is increasing. It's something like registration and job card issues. Why such gaps increasing? There are many reasons. Maybe fund is not there. The wage is not getting on time. There may be a number of reasons. People asked work, they are not getting work. This is called unmet demand, So such kind of issues are there. This has to be solved. So this gap has to be solved, and decision has to be taken at district magistrate level, the collector level immediately, and this has to be advised to the block development officers and panchayats. Then another concern I wanted to tell you from my own studies in my NIRD PR is, again, when you look back the data over a period of time, the inclusive aspect of NREGA, the inclusiveness, the women participation is quite good under NREGA. There is no doubt of it. The states like, for example, Kerala, 97% of people working under NREGA are women, and many southern states. But there is a problem with some other central Indian states and all, even women's participation, and also the participation of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and all. It's a concern. Over a period, there is a decline in the participation of these real needy in terms of the employment days. I'm not talking in terms of the number of people. In terms of the employment days provided to them, there was a slight decline. That is, so they are the real needy. And why that decline? Is it because of the awareness problem? And still awareness problem is there in many. If you go to Bihar or Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, the interior areas, they don't know many things about this right-based program. So that issue is there. Still issues are there. So bring them, the real needy, bring them into the. So then again, your labor budget and your micro planning and district level decisions are very important. So that is the level, the decentralized level. One has to redesign the implementation strategy of NREGA if you wanted to make it more effective in the present context, the COVID-19 context. Then look at this, the another promise of NREGA, that is strengthening the decentralized governance. So that is another promise you see under NREGA Act. So if you can see that Gram Sabha is the authority, make many decisions of NREGA, the labor budget, including labor budget. And also you have a social audit process going on there. Also, special Gram Sabhas are there to decide the shelf of work. I think I have touched all these, some of these points, like the wage part, the finance part, the wage part, and also the coverage part in the. And coverage, just let me repeat it once again, that many states, there are many states having still 27% or 30% of the coverage. It's very small. Many people are not there. There are many reverse migration. If you think, they may not be entitled for this work. They need a job card. So speedy job card issue is very important. And anticipated demand and realization of demand. Unmet demand is an issue. There are many academic papers on unmet demand. Discouraging effect, it's an issue. So, and skilled labor, maybe that's the last point I want to mention. If you see the NREGA workers, even today, 11% of workers are skilled. there are carpentry people, there are plumbers, there are wiremen. So good skilled people, and also postgraduate coming. The now ministry have a program called Unnati. So we will be absorbing them into Unnati. So the available money and the resources and time can be spent on the real need. So skilled labor is another issue. And the last another thing is I already mentioned how the work and task differ. The time and motion study is going on across India, and all these states must complete time and motion study. So the wage, the real wage, what they are getting in their hand will definitely improve, because that again an issue. Many states are not having a scheduled rates for payment of wages under NAREGA. Minimum wage is there, but there is no such proper schedule of rates to make the payment of wages. That has to be quickly. And I heard from last month from the ministry that they are trying to complete this work by October. So the current secretary and be taking initiative. With these words, I'll stop here. I think I took 30 minutes meeting all these issues. Probably I'll address your questions and I can clarify many things. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jyotis Satyapalan, for such deep insight into the how policies are working in our rural sectors and how it is helping during the COVID lockdown. So now I would request Dr. T. Vijay Kumar, Associate Professor of NIRDPR, NERC, Guwahati, speak on of sites and
Hello.
yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible,
Anu,
please.
please, mic. Vijay, sir, please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. So,
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
yeah. Good afternoon to all. My colleague, Professor Jyoti Satyapalan, and other faculty members of the Gyan Vihar University. And first of all, I would like to express my thankfulness to all the organizers for taking up this good webinar, that is the impact of COVID on rural livelihoods. So we are all know that this COVID-19 is totally a new experience, and also at the same time it is an uncertain experience. So I would like to present share my PowerPoint presentation. So can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So impact of COVID-19 on rural livelihoods. This is Vijay Kumar from National Institute of Rural Development, Guwahati branch. So at present, all of us are experiencing emotional thoughts and situations we have never experienced before. The same kind of situation also prevails in the rural areas. So earlier also there were pandemics, and these pandemics, particularly the plague outbreaks, have been known since times immemorial. So the cholera pandemic followed by the flu pandemic were highlights of the 19th century. I would like to give a brief about this pandemic situation and how it is affecting the people. Then we will be covering the livelihood situation. So the effects of pandemic, if you see, the psychological effects are the main effects, and it is understood in terms of psychiatric and psychological problems, and the responses to the social isolation and the lockdown, particularly the psychological response to the diagnosis, public responses to those with the symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 infection, that we are seeing. People are reactive in mood, people are under fear, people are under stress, people are in anxiety, and at the same time, people are in depressive kind of a situation. Then the first response to the pandemic has been fear. Then the actual facts and information is also one of the important source, where that information circulating in the media, particularly social media, regarding the COVID and also the infectious disease, and also at the same time the rural employment and the rural livelihood situation, and this RBI sanctions and other banks and all this information, the financial and economic related information is also keeping the people in a crossroad, and at the same time it is confusing a lot. And advisory information of the government, what to do and what not to do, and all these situations are making the people into a stressful situation. Then the fears of contracting the illness, that is another important situation when you are going to work in a particular farm or a non-farm sector. And this fear, it is misinterpreting, particularly every fever or cough as a COVID-19 infection. Apart from the advisories regarding hand washing, doubts about whether it is not to use mask or what type of mask, and what distances to maintain, and what surfaces need disinfection, and all these informations are creating a kind of a stress among the people, particularly the effect of COVID-19. It is psychological, sociological, and economical aspects. And if you see this, the facets of psychological functioning, anybody, whether it is whether he is from a rural area or an urban area, the impact of this particular pandemic on psychology of the individual, particularly in terms of functioning, we have to understood when we are talking about these livelihoods. So the self-acceptance, the knowledge and acceptance of oneself, including awareness on personal limitations, and also the positive relations and personal growth, continued growth and development as a person, all these are influencing. And if you see this coronavirus quarantine, particularly if you see the village quarantines and the experience what we have seen from Maharashtra, Gujarat, and the other states where this pandemic is very, very high. And if you see this, the effect of this quarantine is also influencing a lot. And these quarantine places are also influencing mentally as well as sociologically also. Then the quarantine and psychological effects of quarantine is also influencing on the livelihoods of the people, and the managing the anxiety and isolation during the quarantines, and all these situations are pushing the people into distressful condition. And this isolation and social distancing is also the important factors one should understand when we are talking about the impacts on livelihood. Then coming to these isolation coaches, corona wards, and all these life-threatening obstacles are there. Then if you see this social distancing, the maintaining social distance when they go to attend the work, when they are in a farm or a non-farm sector, that is also influencing a lot on the livelihood aspects. The stresses during quarantine, and also the fears of infection, inadequate information, then the finances. Financial loss can be a problem of quarantine, with people unable to work and interrupt their professional activities with no advanced planning. So the effects appear to be a long lasting. So psychological impact of quarantine is wide ranging, substantial, and can be a long lasting also. So under these circumstances, how these rural livelihoods, how this rural economy will depend, that all one should understand. Here if you see the stigma, the report of stigmatization and rejection from the people in their local neighborhoods, suggesting that there is a stigma of specifically surrounding the people and avoiding them, withdrawing the social invitations, treating them with fear and suspicion, and making critical comments, and all these aspects are influencing on the rural livelihoods. So when you come to this impact on rural livelihoods specifically, the COVID-19 in rural areas, if you see the major brunt of the lockdown imposed since March 25, if you see the migrants returning to rural areas. So there could be the double whammy of the spread of COVID-19 and the worsening of the socio-economic situation that is resulted because of these lockdown conditions. And if you see the large scale of reverse migration that has witnessed during this unprecedented tragedy, this was not there earlier. Earlier, we have seen number of pandemics and epidemics, but this pandemic is a new experience and we have not seen earlier, which needs to be understood well. Here, the top 5 COVID-19 cities like Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Pune, and Chennai alone counts for the 53% of India's cases. So in total, urban areas would account for an overwhelming proportion of COVID-19 so far. So if you see in Maharashtra, the leading COVID-19 with over 1/3 of the cases, 27 municipal corporations contributed about 95% of the cases. And villages and small towns put together accounted for only 6%. So similarly, in Karnataka, all cities and towns contributed 92% of the state's cases, with the rural areas showing a share of 8%. So when you compare this urban and rural situation, in rural areas, though the cases are very, very less, the share is very less, but its impact on the livelihoods is very, very large. If you see the reverse migration, this is a major impact on the rural areas. So it affected broadly 3 kinds of activities, particularly the agriculture and allied activities, local non-farm sectors, and rural urban migration. That is a migration that has been severely affected. So the working group on migration 2017 about it indicates that 28.3% of the total workforce is constituted by migrants. So many of whom hail from vulnerable rural areas. This is the underlining point. So the vulnerable rural areas, if you see, these 28.3% of the total workforce, if they are coming to rural migration, that is a reverse migration, what kind of effects it will be there on particularly these agriculture and non-farm sectors, that one should understand. So as the rural urban migration has become a source of income and also the employment. So most of the time, if you see, this rural and urban migration is the source of income. So it has become a livelihood now. So the overall impact of lockdown and preceding months, if you see, the magnitude of this migration, the extent of income and employment obtained, and the reach of the relief measures which can mitigate the consequences, these things one should understand in a clear way. And if you see, the summer is a major season for migration. So the lockdown would have squeezed a significant share of the income and unemployment of the migrants, leaving them in lurch. So unfortunately, this March to April and April to May, and now it is continued during this June month also. So the major season of migration, and it is impacting, and particularly from the rural areas, when you see the agriculture and allied activities, after harvesting, then the people naturally they will come to the cities, and also the crisis of livelihoods for many daily wage earners, and the impact of this migration is totally impacting on that. So the work participation, particularly among the rural working age men and women, the latest NSS for data, it indicates that it has come down. Work participation of men in the age and also women in the age has come down over a period of time from 2011 to 2017. So the rural works, including particularly the construction of labors, construction field laborers, and loading and unloading activities, and also the markets, and also the mechanics, those who are coming from the rural areas to the urban areas, and when they are commuting, and also the hawkers, and also the salary workers, the contractual salary workers in the private sector. So all these people's participation in the work is impacting a lot because of this lockdown, and in turn it is impacting on the livelihoods of the people. And also because of this lockdown and also the advisories of the government, there are many obstacles to return to their native villages. When they are stuck in the urban areas, and because of this lockdown and all, the people have lost their employment, and there is no wages, and there is no salaries, and on and above, the guidelines which are becoming an obstacle for them to move to the native villages have created a lot of distress among the people, and everyone is dependent on employment availability at the local area and also the rural areas. So the miserable living conditions in cities also played a compelling role in their desperate return. So these are the push and pull factors because of this COVID-19, and it is impacting on the rural livelihoods. So in given such acute distress, what could be the impact of the central government's Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana? So PMGKY announced post-lockdown period and its impact particularly on these distress conditions of the people and the livelihood one has to see. So an essential scheme like the PDS, it is also a limited reach, the public distributory system. If you see the Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, these two states, if you see, when the migrant laborers, they have struck, they could not return to their native villages in spite of the government support, like 500 rupees cash and also some grain supply to all these people also have not retained in the urban areas, and the outburst of the distress made them to return to the native villages, and they have to totally depend on the employment availability in the local villages. So those having PDS access even complained about many hassles in obtaining the rations. During this lockdown period also, when the government has announced this public distributory system, rations and cash, and that has not reached to these wage earners and also the wage employees. The schemes with direct transfers like the PM KSY and the PM JDY show a higher outreach and could be helpful during the crisis. So the reversal of rural urban migration is of the major impacts experienced by these vulnerable groups, and it may even affect the demographic situation in villages also. And if you go for the next census, in the next census you can see how it is affecting on the demographic situation of the rural areas, not only the livelihoods, but at the same time it is also influencing on the demographic conditions of the rural areas. Then coming to the coping mechanism, how these situations one has to be adjusted or adapted. So explaining the importance of staying in quarantine to safeguard the others and appreciate the advice of the health professionals and the government, and living a healthy lifestyle due to lack of the livelihood opportunities, lack of employment, and when they lost this wage earning facility, how they are going to live the healthy lifestyle, that is a challenging one. And to cope up the distress, help them that your work is being carried by others and extend support of administration, particularly in the private sector where contractual employment is there. And also the family facilitating to returning to their work. So these are all the important aspects when once you talk about the coping mechanism. So here, if you see the COVID-19 and its effect on the rural livelihoods, both in terms of psychological in nature, sociological in nature, and also the economic aspects. So the livelihoods, whatever we are creating, particularly through this MGNREGA. So my senior colleague has given the scenario of MGNREGAs and its impact and how the scheme is helping a rural poor that we have seen. And the rural livelihoods, apart from the MGNREGA and other allied sectors, the non-farm sectors and the farm sectors, which are adversely affected. So all these conditions one has to see, and proper planning has to be done. Then only the rural livelihoods can be explained in a proper way, and the rural economy can be improved, and the work participation, particularly among the women, has to be improved a lot. And these conditions, particularly the contagious disease like this COVID, and now we are witnessing that more than 1 lakh cases, it is spreading every day in an alarming speed, and the safety of the life and at the same time the livelihood creation are the major challenges one has to see. Without proper planning and proper implementation of the available schemes like PDS and all, that is a major challenge during this crisis. So with this, now I would like to stop here, and with this presentation I have raised many issues, like what support the government, the central government is giving to the farmers, particularly the small and marginal farmers, and also the reverse migrants from the urban areas to the rural areas when this crisis of livelihoods, particularly for the daily wage earners. So all these conditions, how they are coping to sustain the livelihoods is a major challenge. And here I would like to stop here. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity and raising these important issues. And when this question and answer session is begin, we would like to clarify more aspects regarding the impact on rural livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Vijay Kumar, sir, for enlightening us with how psychological aspect and how coping mechanism can be affecting the livelihood in the rural sectors and people who are at the marginal level. Now, I would like to request Dr. Varun Narayan Mishra, Assistant Professor of Center for Climate Change and Water Research, to give his speech on the topic of role of geoinformatics in rural planning during COVID-19.
Thanks, Priyanka. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you. My voice is clear?
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay. Now I am going to share my PPT. Myself, Dr. Varun Narayan Mishra, and I am working here in Suresh Gyan Vyas University as assistant professor. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to deliver my talk on the topic uh, role of geoinformatics in rural planning during COVID-19 pandemic. And screen share nahi ho raha. Wait, there are some issues regarding the sharing my PPT. Hello, Nisha. Please mute the mic.
Meanwhile, Priyanka, we can take a question and answer. If there is a question and answer, thereafter, Varun can manage his presentation.
Right, sir. So we will continue with the
Question
question
and
and answers. So now question and answer session is open. So I request all the participants to put their questions on the chat box so that I can put up their questions to the addresses speakers. So any questions? Yes, and any of the participants can ask any questions from our guest speakers regarding the planning or the national rural employment. Yes, any questions? Okay, so there's a question from Dr. Shruti Kanga. She's been asking, how can we plan better for migrant laborers?
Question to whom actually? It's addressing to whom? Yeah.
Jyoti, so the question is that how can we better plan for migrant laborers?
Yeah.